Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to Knife AQ episode 127, the knife series where I answer all your questions, whether they're sharp or dull. And this week, amongst our topics, we're tackling the question, what is the perfect 3-knife collection? Let's get into it. All right, everyone, welcome. If you're new to our FAQ series, welcome. I think they're a lot of fun. I enjoy answering your folks' questions. And if you have one that you would like to have considered for a future episode, what you got to do, scroll down, whether you're on your phone or on your desktop or whatever other device you are somehow accessing this video, leave it in the comments section below. And perhaps we'll be able to feature it. First question today. Actually, first, before we get into the first question, I should mention, next Saturday, there will be no FAQ because we will be in Atlanta at the Blade Show, which means
we'll be busy.
And we'll be very busy, which means keep tuned here. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to make sure to see all the videos as soon as they're coming out of all the new stuff from the best companies that are there. Hit that bell icon too. I don't think I've ever asked anyone to hit that bell icon on this channel before. So
no, I don't think you have.
First time for everything, and it's appropriate for something like the show when the news is coming fast and furious. But anyway, first question today comes from John K. Hi, DCA and everyone at KnifeCenter. Over there. I recently bought my first house, congratulations, and would like to commemorate that with a new knife. Could you suggest a good knife for around the house, inside and out? Thank you. Sure, but in a way, you're kind of asking, in my mind at least, for two different things. You know, a knife to commemorate the purchase is cool, but a knife that's a in and around the house useful thing, because to me that's a multi-tool. Something like the Leatherman Skeletool would be great with its pocket clip there, so you could carry it easily no matter how you happen to be dressed in your domicile. You've got your pliers, a one-hand opening and locking blade. Plain edge versions are available as well, and then for screwdriver bits right in, or two double-sided bits, I should say, and of course a lot of Leatherman's extra stuff, or alternate bits will work on this too. That's your around and in and around the house thing, at least some kind of multi-tool, but that doesn't really feel commemorative to me. Like, this is very much a utilitarian purpose. Easy answer is, it's hard to say, like, what is house themed? What's that grail knife you've been lusting after that you've never been able to justify the expense? Splurge. Go for that. Or what I did, it's hard to believe, it was about a year ago I moved into our new house. And what I did was, I wanted to do the same thing, commemorate it with some sort of knife. And I did it with something that I think everyone in the family would be able to enjoy. And that is a truly nice or luxurious set of steak knives. This is what I bought. Actually, not this particular wood-handled version. I bought the, I think it was Bacote. I never remember. It was a brown wood. In any case, these are the olive wood versions right here. A set of two comes in about 120 bucks. These are the Viper Sakura series steak knives, and they're awesome. They look great. They work great cutting your steaks. It's got a nice sweep to the edge, and they feel special. It feels like something noteworthy, such as buying a house is a noteworthy thing. It's a collaboration between Jesper Vaknes and Jens Anso, built by Viper in Italy. They're awesome, just so cool. And down the line, depending on how much cooking you do, they make a whole line of kitchen knives, not just steak knives in the set. So that's what I did. I hope that helps.
I'd get a pen knife.
Why a pen knife, Thomas?
So you could sign that mortgage.
It's not how pen knives work.
You sign it in blood.
Sometimes it feels like you're doing that. All right, next question comes from Jacob Williams. Hey, fellas, I'm a watch guy and see lots of videos about 3-watch collections. What about a 3-knife collection? I like the idea of having a relatively small but good quality collection. Maybe a 5 to 7 collection makes more sense. What styles would you suggest to complete a collection that meets almost any cutting needs a knife guy or a knife gal might want? Sure. I could do you a 3-knife collection if we're just gonna focus on folding knives. Because I kind of underwent this mental thought process myself as we were, moving into our new house about a year ago. Just over a year ago, we were starting to really pack things up. The idea of the weight of your own possessions just kind of crushing your soul. I still am feeling that a little bit. We're still trying to dig out because we didn't actually have time to purge before we did the move. And that carried over into my thinking about knives. And I actually got to a point, I talked about this a little bit in our end of year wrap up that Seth and I did together on the stuff we bought last year. I could be happy, or at least well served, with just 3 folding knives. And here's where I landed. The first thing that I wanted, or at least what I'm going to give the number 1 position here in this lineup, is a larger folder. And this is something that would need to cover, because we're dealing with just 3 things here, a fairly broad set of needs, so to speak. 1, just a bigger everyday carry folder that can handle jobs where you might appreciate that extra blade length. I didn't want it to be too heavy, wanted it to have a bit of the nimbleness of a slightly smaller knife so you could control it very easily, very intuitively. It would also need to be something that I wouldn't be opposed to taking camping, using as a backup to a fixed blade, so to speak. And if you needed a knife that could appear more intimidating, there's certainly some certain times where you might want that. For me, I settled on settled's the wrong word. To me, I happily arrived at the conclusion that the Presidio 2 from Benchmade is that knife for my 3-knife collection, so to speak. But it's a great knife. You've got an S30V blade about 3 3/4 of an inch long, plenty of length for just about anything I would want a folder for. The S30V offers capable edge retention for sure, and it's a blade shape that'll do just about anything. You've got a drop point with a relatively high flat grind, maybe not really, about 2/3 of the height of the blade. Not too thick, good blend between slicing and a little bit more toughness. I like that. I also like the CF Elite handle material on this knife. It's lighter than the aluminum versions of this knife previously, the original Presidio, and or some of the autos too actually are still aluminum. And it just feels nimble. It feels way more maneuverable in everyday use. The weight on this, what is it actually? Just under 5 ounces, so not too heavy. We actually did a video last week talking about lightweight yet still heavy-duty use knives with 4-inch blades, which is slightly bigger than this, but we kind of settled on 5 ounces as kind of the topping out point where things started to feel a bit more bulky. So this one definitely applies. Plus, I love the axis lock and any crossbar style lock. I love the finger safe nature of it because you can just keep your fingers out of the way of the blade when it's closing. Just another passive safety measure you don't have to think about when you might be getting down and dirty. Things are wet, rainy, bad weather, adrenaline dump, what have you. I appreciate that. So that's my big folder. Next up, I needed a formal knife, what some folks might call a gentleman's knife. And for me, the tactile rock wall is where it's at. And especially our KnifeCenter exclusive version right here, which I happened to illustrate this inlay shape when we were speccing out this exclusive. So that's extra special to me, but no matter which version you go for, this is a sweet little knife. They're about $330, made in the USA. It is a pricey knife for sure. MagnaCut blade, 3 inches long, and that's important too. The 3-inch mark means I can take it to places like Washington, D.C. It's not too far from here that have a 3-inch length limit. I can carry my formal knife there. Edge retention is fantastic with the MagnaCut, and the blade itself, it's kind of a distillation, or it's in the same vein of just like older school pocket knives. It's not a big, flashy thing. It's just like a 3-inch penknife blade, essentially. There you go, pen knives. Now the handles here are titanium, and what I like about the design of this handle is it allows it to flex into both that formal roll as well as, blurring the lines a little bit to slightly heavier use. Not that I consider this a heavy use knife, but there is plenty of grip on that handle. It doesn't feel like I just have like a shrimpy hold on this knife. So you can have a really confident feel in the hand and a lot of control, pardon me there. Deep carry pocket clip to keep things nice and subtle in formal situations. But the cool thing again about this, flexing the boundaries a little bit, is this is not so blingy or so flashy that it would look out of place on a pair of blue jeans as well, just as a smaller everyday carry as an alternative to the Presidio. And I like that very much. And then the final knife that I need, that I've chosen to be part of my 3-knife collection is, you could call it one of two things, either your travel knife or your compliance knife. And I know the idea of compliance, something that will allow you to carry it in places with more restrictive laws, is going to rub people the wrong way. You do you, carry what you like. I don't want to be the test case in a courtroom if I happen to get caught for some reason carrying a bigger knife than is allowed. So if you fall on that side of the thing, or that side of things, I get it. Don't come at me, bro. For me, the Lil Native Slip It is my choice. It is about $150. All 3 of these knives made in the USA. That's something I happen to appreciate. This knife has a 2.5-inch long blade measured from the tip to the handle scale, and it is non-locking, which means this, pretty much anywhere that it's going to be quote unquote okay to carry a knife, it's going to be okay to carry this knife. Whether certain restrictive locales here in the States or a lot of places in Europe as well. Especially Germany. Actually, this is perfect for that. They have a law on the books where your knife can be one-hand opening or it can be locking. It can't be both. This one I like because you've got the one-hand opening, but it feels secure thanks to the finger choil there. It's not going to close on your finger if the slip joint does happen to disengage for some reason while you're cutting. Of course, if you're following proper cutting procedures, it's not going to do that, but things happen, of course. G10 handle scales, I did put a Lynch Northwest deep carry pocket clip on it to keep things even more subtle. The standard version, or standard out of the box, it comes with a flashier, like polished non-deep carry clip. So I like that. Again, talking about things though that flex one way or the other, even though this is non-locking, it feels solid. It doesn't feel shrimpy. It doesn't feel insecure. So this is another alternative to the Rockwall if I want to carry a smaller knife on the days I'm not carrying the Presidio. So that is pretty cool. So that's my 3 folding knife collection. And now we'll expand it out a little bit to the 5 to 7 knife collection. But before I do, you folks need to let me know your 3 folding knife collection down in the comments. Curious to see how this goes. So going from the 5 to 7, I've got 7 here, a 7 knife collection. And we have to exclude something. We're going to exclude kitchen knives as not part of the 7 that we're dealing with. Normally I exclude multi-tools from this sort of thing too, because it makes the conversation less interesting to have to factor in those. But I do have one for this. I got to 6 and I was like, yeah, this is good. So if you have 7, I threw a multi-tool in. So we'll do it. The next thing I need is a camping fixed blade. And for me, pardon the self-promotion here, but I designed exactly what I wanted for myself. And the result of that is the Nordsmith Canteen knife. It's got a 5.5-inch blade. This one is the first one that we made between me and LT Wright for the first run of these knives. AEBL steel, plenty of length there for bigger camp tasks, and enough handle length there to take advantage of the blade. You can choke back a little bit, get a little more chopping prowess. You can choke up, get really fine control over that edge. And the idea behind this was I wanted a camp knife that could also do rocking chops like a kitchen knife. So I don't have to bring a kitchen knife to camp as well. I love this thing. It has done everything I've ever wanted it to do with flying colors. Works on all kinds of food prep, works as a larger hunting knife or a butchering knife very well. You can baton wood with this for your campfire. Just does all those campy things quite nicely. I won't spend too much more time on it, but I love this knife. With that, for knife number 5, this is one that has to serve kind of multiple purposes. One, I want it to be a companion to my bigger camp knife. We're going with another fixed blade here. And also something that would make a good everyday carry option if I don't want to be carrying a folder. And that is the Nordsmith Lapwing. And we actually have a few of these in stock here at the moment as well. This is the first one as well, off the line from the first run of these. This one is AEBL steel, but we've got CPM 154 in stock at the moment. This essentially for your camping / chef knife, you got your bird and trout / paring knife to go with it. And this works on so many different types of levels. Works as a small paring knife in the kitchen, works as a bird and trout knife for small game. I've even known people who have taken their lapwings and field dressed deer with it, no problem, because you've got about 3.5 inches of edge right there. Plenty of length for a small hunting knife. And everyday carry, if you're dealing, especially if you get a Kydex sheath made for it, very easy to stash inside the waistband or even in a pocket with a fair bit sticking out, sure, but you could do that as well. And could even serve as sort of some last-ditch self-defense if you needed to. So a very versatile blade for that sort of thing. Next up for number 6, because of the uses that I use my fixed blades for, it's another camp type, or camp adjacent at least, blade, but also something that's gonna work for yard work for me. And that is a larger chopping fixed blade. Yes, you could get an axe or a hatchet if you want. I just like the versatility and I feel more comfortable swinging a large knife than I do a hatchet for reasons. And for me, the Becker BK20, since I already have one, would be what I would pick. Fortunately, you can't get these anymore. They were only available direct from K-Bar for a limited time, I guess, let's say not too long ago. It was probably at least 5 years ago at this point, actually.
I feel old.
Maybe something like that. What's nice about a blade like this is it's big, but it's not too big. You've got about a 12-inch blade, if I'm remembering my spec sheet correctly from back in the day. Tough carbon steel, 1/4 inch thick, but a lot of it's ground away with the full flat grind and the swedge. As such, it can chop pretty darn well, actually, but it's not so heavy that you can't also, that you're still gonna be able to do small stuff pretty comfortably in a pinch, and you can still do some kind of light machete type of work with it, again, without tiring yourself out as much as you might with a thicker, longer, chunkier blade. And I love it. It's a great knife. I love the ability with a Becker knife to be able to string up a forward lanyard. So if you swing and you lose your grip, knife stays right there. And I've got some glow-in-the-dark glow-in-the-dark handle scales here from Dogwood Custom Knives. These are its Firefly material, which have been out of production for a while. I'm hoping they'll come back at some point. Since you can't get this anymore unless you're willing to pay like double what they went for originally by going to eBay, something like the SE Hunglis would probably be what I would wind up with. It's a little harder to do a forward lanyard easily on this, but it does the same things that the BK20 does. It has the reach, decent chopping chops, not so thick. They actually call it a machete. I kind of disagree with them, but it's not so thick that you can't use it for kind of grass clearing and that sort of thing. You've got 2 positions. Technically, I would say 3. You can choke back for more chopping power, choke up for more balance, or really choke up for some fine control. And it comes with a great sheath too, actually.
Somewhere.
I don't know where I put it. It might be in the box still. It comes with a fantastic Kydex sheath as well. Great, great knife. Price on this one right here, just under $200 too. That's a fantastic pick right there for me. I don't know, maybe it doesn't do the forward lanyard thing I appreciate so much. So maybe I'm still searching for an alternative, but I haven't actually been searching for an alternative because I have my BK20. I don't know, maybe I'll have to keep my eyes out a little bit better. Work Tough makes some really cool stuff, but a lot of the heavier choppers of theirs I've felt don't have the same kind of smaller nimbleness of these blades. Those are more intended to be bigger brute force things.
You're just going to have to design your own.
Maybe. And last but not least, for my 7 knife collection, I said I was gonna, normally I exclude multi-tools, but if I had to go down to 1, part of me wants to say the Leatherman Juice that I'm carrying, the CS4 on my belt right now, but it is a smaller tool, and while it's appropriate for most situations, I might want a bigger one than some, but I don't want something too bulky again. Kind of the same thing I feel like these big choppers here. And of course, you've always got other tools that aren't multi-tools that you can bring into the mix. Right now, I'm tempted to say the Leatherman Free P2. This one is actually mine. I've used it a little bit. It's not as thick as the P4 that Thomas actually carries on his belt every day. Quick access. It's got most of the tools I would want day to day, but I do have some mods in mind for this. So if I mod this the way I think I could, or that I think I want to at this point, that could probably do it for me. It's not, you've got a bit more controllability for smaller stuff than some of the Leatherman tools out there. 7 knife collection. There you go. I could get away with everything I need my knives to do, excluding kitchen knives, of course, for the rest of my life with this combination right here. Will I? No, of course not. I'm going to buy more knives just like you are, but I could do it with this. And it's a great exercise, and it's a great way to kind of trim your collection if you need to. I still need to. There you go. Thomas, we don't have time to talk about your 7 knife collection because it's time for the lightning round. First question today is from Jeremy. Why are larger fixed blade knives not made with drop forged handles, like the Cold Steel drop forged Survivalist? It seems like a great idea, but not many companies make them. I think it is a great idea, I think Cold Steel's drop forged series is a great idea. I think they're really cool knives. They're very tough. Short and simple answer as to why more don't do this sort of thing is, 1, you got to have space for the tooling, and 2, not all steels respond well to being drop forged. In fact, most of the high performance particle steels especially, not so good for this sort of thing. It'd be cool to see more of, though. I would agree with that, but it's easy to see why there aren't as many. That's a cool knife. $70 for this knife, 52-100 steel. Solid. That's actually really solid. I always forget how good of a value those knives are. Like, that's a lot of knife for the money. Next question comes from Peter Minero. I noticed none of this was a comment left on our Worksharp Professional Precision Adjust competition video that we did, where Thomas, myself, and Seth all competed with our different sharpening methods to see who got the best edge. This was a comment from that video. I noticed that none of you used a honing rod to straighten out the edge. Is it in your opinion that 800 grit stone is the same thing? Is a honing rod not necessary? What's the deal? So a honing rod is something like this. This is a Shun combination honing steel right here. And sometimes people will refer to these as sharpening steels, but that's kind of a misnomer. A honing steel is what it is. And it's designed as you've used your knife, usually in conjunction with kitchen knives, and the edge starts to kind of ripple and move around a little bit, fold over perhaps. This will realign the edge, bring it back to true. The short answer is this is not really necessary when you're sharpening, because if you're sharpening, your edge is already straight because you're making the edge straight as you sharpen, so there's no need to realign it. That's all that this thing really does. I can remember, man, back when I was real young, I thought those things sharpened too, and I took one to a meeting my dad was in, and I had to just like occupy myself, and I was sharpening my pocket knife, and I did it for a long time, and it came out really dull, and I couldn't figure out why. The more you know. You live and learn, and that was a long time ago. All right. Next question comes from Chaz III. What are some good budget options for Japanese food prep knives like the Nakiri? 2 come to mind immediately. Mercer actually has a great, they call it the Asian collection, but also Duecini is another great option. This is actually a Subazo Nakiri right here, but imported into this country by Duecini by Fox, which is an Italian distributor, Italian knife company, acting as distributor for these knives anyway. Really great. This is less than $40. The Mercer is likewise less than $40, and they've got a lot of different Asian style blades to choose from. Maple wood handles, stick tang, plastic, synthetic ferrule right there, and really capable blades. I think this is just like 420 stainless, which, you know what? For $40, that's A-okay by me for sure. Check those out. Kanetsune has some other really great, more affordable options, but those don't feature traditional, or most of the more affordable ones don't feature the traditional Japanese style handles. They feature a more like a partial tang with wood bolted on, but they're cool too. All right, which brings us to our final question of the day, which is of course our most serious question of the day, which is a follow-up from our Desert Island knife discussion last week. This comes from Stephen Sayer. If you were going to be meringued on a desert island, which one knife would you bring and why? Forget the knives. Thomas was on the ball with this. He actually had the suggestion here. You want a K-bar. Specifically, this ice cream scoop right here. Why? You're on a desert island. If you're going to survive, you need to conquer the environment. This is the Desert Destroyer ice cream scoop from K-bar. One time, I'll suggest not actually having a knife. There you go. Hope that helps. Well, that's all we've got for today. Let me know your reactions to the questions down below. Let me know your 3 to 7 knife collections as well. What do you need to get through life? See if you can pare it down to 3 to 7. Really, actually, I am really keen to hear that sort of stuff. It's fun to see what other people are thinking on that too. If you want to get your hands on any of these knives, except for the BK20 and the canteen knives, because we don't have any in stock at the moment there, you can check out the links in the description to take you to KnifeCenter.com. While you're over there, don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, because if you're going to buy one of these knives today, it's a cool thing to earn some free money to spend on your next ones. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera. We're signing off. See you next time.